Hello, I'm Dr. Tonea Stewart. I'm an actress, an educator, a mother, a grandmother, a museum exhibit director, a play director, and producing film projects when I can. So that's who I am. But what I do is give of myself. And that's what I love. I love helping others. How I met Mr. Seraaj, I believe it was through his children, his son, Lukman. He came to some function that we had, and then Lukman was telling me that his dad was interested in helping any way that he could. And so we made an appointment. He came by my office, and at that time my office had very, very little. He said, what are some of the things that you need to get you going? Because I heard your comments to the students. You're enthusiastic and you want to do so much for them. How can I be of help? I said, well, for one thing, I sure hope they get me a secretary soon. And when I get a secretary, we're going to need a fax machine. We need a copier. He said, okay. I said, oh, but let me see how you can help. He said, I can do that. I said, the fax machine, the copier? And he said, sure. And I said, oh God, I really wanted to cry. And then after that, I learned more about what Mr. Seraaj was doing. And I wanted to be of help to him. So he said, well, you know what? You can come and speak to my children. And when I made it to the occasion, all of these beautiful children, all of these ages, I didn't realize that he meant a whole community of children. And then I was hooked because I love children. And I was very impressed with Mrs. Seraaj because she's just beautiful. This lady was just so gracious and so elegant. I knew that I was in good company with the Seraaj family. That's how I met Mr. Seraaj. And Mr. Seraaj, they built the stadium at Alabama State University. And he was one of the first persons to make a major contribution and buy a suite at the stadium because he said his father worked at Alabama State in the janitorial area, I believe. And he said he was doing what he's doing today because of his father. And he wanted to stay connected to the school in honor of his father. This man is a family man. This man is a God-fearing man. This man is a praying man. And just knowing the strength of his success with his prayers and with his faith and with his family. My sister and I and the whole theater department, we just looked up to and looked forward to the Seraajes whenever they could be a part of anything we were doing. Then he built Grandma's Retreat. He invited us out. I went out to look. I said, wait a minute, what is this? And then he told us the story about how his mother had this land and his brother was still living on the land and that he wanted to do something in honor of his grandmother. And he called it Grandma's Retreat. I tell you, I'm just happy to know such a man, such a leader, such a giver, such a faith-building person. And his family has been the same way. The entire family, every one of the members of the family I've met, everybody has been so humble, yet they're so successful. They've been so giving and never taking. They've been so a part of the community, and the community doesn't even know who's embracing them. I admire the Seraaj Family Homes Well, my mother was an educator. She worked she taught elementary school, and she was very good at it. She was very dedicated, and they kept offering her to be a principal. She said, no, I want to work with my children. So for 19 years, she worked in the classroom with the children. And we, my sister and I, had to learn to respect that, because every time we got an Easter dress, every time we got a new outfit, and there was a program at her school, those students were going to wear our clothing. So we learned to share. We learned to admire them in our dress that we like so much. We learned to appreciate what it meant to share and give and support other people. And we used to say, one thing I will never be is a teacher. If I've got to be devoted like that, I won't be a teacher. My sister said it, I said it. I've been teaching 48 years. She taught about 30 before retiring. And I love children, I love people. And when I look into children's eyes and I see the aspirations, the hope, the questions, the desire, I want to be a part of fulfilling that desire. And I get a great joy out of talking to young people, working with them, and helping them to realize their innate gift, their God-given gift. Every one of us, we have a gift. And many times we don't know what that gift is. So if I can awaken a desire, an enthusiasm, a hope in a child's mind and a child's eye, I am very satisfied. It's gratifying for me to work with children. And it's gratifying for me to steer them away from troubled times, troubled things, getting into trouble. Like John Lewis said, giving them some good trouble, giving them something to focus on, giving them something to want to do, giving them something to say, I can do this, it's in me. I had no idea I could do this. And now they're doing it. And I'm looking at those that were little children when I started with them. Now they're young adults and they have their own company. They're working in the media. They're directing for the stage. They're teaching in schools, performing arts, high schools. They're on television. They're on Broadway. They're in film. It feels good to see them grow like that. It really does. Oh, people in my childhood that advocated for me. Well, it starts with my mother. My mother wanted both of us to learn the arts, to be creative, to be active artistically. And she felt that we had that talent. Now, my sister would sit at the piano at age 4, I understand. She started just playing. So my mother had a piano in the house. So then she wanted to try to introduce me to musical instruments. She rented a xylophone. She rented a guitar. She rented all of these, an accordion. I didn't take to any of them, not even the piano. My desire at the time was to become a medical doctor. So no one could tell me that I was going to do anything differently. And I was stubborn. But today I regret every time I said no, and every time I walked away from the piano, from the accordion, from the xylophone, from the guitar. As a matter of fact, my husband gave me a guitar as a Christmas gift 2 years ago. So I'm beginning to play with it now. And my son, my oldest son, I think he was about 5 years old, I got him a guitar for Christmas. And he said, "Oh, Mama, I got everything I wanted. And you even got what you wanted, your guitar." I got it for him. But he knew that I really wanted to learn to play an instrument. The other ones that encouraged me was my sister. You see, my mother would cook every Sunday and invite the elders of the church, the members of the Mothers Board whose family members had left them, and the pastor and members of the church to dinner after church service. And what we would do, while she was in the kitchen, she didn't want anyone in the kitchen with her, we would entertain whoever was at our house. So my sister would play the piano, my daddy would sing, my grandmother would dance, and I would imitate whoever was absent. So I started acting that way. Miss Cora, Miss Suggs, any member that was not there that Sunday, I would say, well, Miss Suggs is here! And I would go right into character. And all of these were older people. As a result, I ended up playing more older roles in film and television. Another great inspirator for me was my high school drama teacher, but she was really our English teacher. But she taught drama, public speaking, and of course my church. I was involved in all of the oratorical contests. I used to do a lot of speaking, and I started that really early on. My first speech, I was a little girl that had the speech about the Easter speech about, here I stand on two little chips, won't you come and kiss my lips, or something like that I used to say. And I was so little and everybody loved to see me do that. So I started out in church, at school, at home. The arts were all around me, and it was always thrust in my direction. When I made it to college on my biology scholarship, I found myself migrating over to the theater. And I was taking an intro to theater class under Mr. E.J. Fisher. And Mr. Fisher really whipped me into shape, because while in biology, I don't like hairy things like squirrels and cats and things like that. I can't be around a cat at all. My professor had us to dissect a raccoon, and I'm standing in the classroom backing up away from that raccoon, and he said, okay, everybody come on around. He said, atomic word? I said, excuse, may I be excused? I went in the hallway, and I remember standing against the wall and sliding down to the floor and weeping, because I knew that I could not dissect that raccoon. If it were not hairy, I could have done it. So working on human beings, I thought I could do. But working on a hairy animal, I couldn't do it. So I left the building and never returned, and went over to Mr. Fisher's office and told him, I think I want to change my major. And he said, I've been waiting for you. Because he had seen me in competition for the statewide competition for oratorical contests and had judged me in plays. And he wondered why I didn't come to Jackson State as a speech and theater major. I came as a biology major. But I knew that day that I should change my major. And that man, E.J. Fisher, Edward J. Fisher, walked me through a whole career of training. And we ended up at the same graduate school at the same time in Santa Barbara, California. And there I met Frank Silvera. And he took my career to a whole different level. I'm still working on material that Frank Silvera put before me. Material that he shared. He was a guest director for the year. And I became his, well, he was my mentor and I became under his wing. I mean, every move he made, I was right there. I was in every play that he directed. And he kept telling me that I was a being actress. And I didn't know what being was. Well, by the time, the end of the year, I was graduating with my master's degree. I had been asked to be in a movie that Frank Silvera had put my name out there for. And Frank Silvera was going to star in the movie. I cannot remember the name of the movie because Frank Silvera tried to throw a party to celebrate his going to Paris to do this movie. And my graduating, and a young man named Henry Brown graduating. And his wife told him the garbage disposal was caught up, and he tried to dislodge it and was electrocuted immediately. So everything about that period went blank for me. I cannot remember. I can't remember. I just can't remember. I just know that I know we lost Frank. I don't even remember how I got home. I mean, back to Mississippi from Santa Barbara. And I know I had to have packed. I had to, nobody came in to get me. Nobody sent me that I know of. I just know that I was so devastated that when I realized that I was back in Mississippi, the time from hearing of his death and getting back to Mississippi, I cannot tell you that time. I don't know to this day. I do know that when I did make it back, actress B. Richards called me and said, "Sister, we've got to stay together and work on all of Frank's directions. We've got to keep it going." And I promised her that we would. It's taken me to this day, 2021, to finally pull together Frank Severa's artifacts, B. Richards' artifacts, and my own. And I've just shipped off the paperwork to Washington just this week. Frank Severa made an everlasting impact on my mind, my spirit, my talent, my consciousness when it comes to performing. So, to sum it up, my family, my church, my high school teacher, Miss Leola G. Williams, my college professor, E.J. Fisher, my graduate school professor, William R. Reardon, and the guest artist that just happened to be there for that year, Frank Severa. Oh my God, I want to do so many things. Now that I'm retired, I want to do so many things that I put off while working in the higher education system. And like I mentioned, I worked in higher ed 48 years. So during that 48-year period, I worked with children, I worked in higher ed with college-age students, and I had a simultaneous acting career, which allowed me to do bit parts and special guests every once in a while, but not co-starring or starring. Now that I've retired, it's been 2 years retired, I've done 3 co-starring roles, and I've done about, I think I've done 6 projects. And what do I really want to do? I want to prepare my legacy. I want to work on Frank Severa's Theater Being. I've worked on getting that incorporated, and it's a for-profit and a not-for-profit. So we have the Frank Severa Foundation. Then we have the it's not Frank Severa, it's the American Theater of Being Foundation. And then the American Theater of Being Corporation. The foundation is where I'm collecting artifacts that belong to actress B. Richards, Frank Severa, and myself, and placing them for eternity in various museums around the country. I'm transferring my dissertation on the American Theater of Being, Frank Severa's American Theater of Being, into a book, and getting with some of my former students, 6 of them to be exact. We're working on the companion to that book, so that what he says about his theory and philosophy in the book will be better explained in the companion manual, which will show you how to go about making that philosophy and theory work. And we're doing a documentary on my telling the story of what I have learned of Frank Severa and how he taught me, and how the work, the theory works. The artifacts for the museums, then the book, the companion book, the documentary. We're working on the documentary, and it's pretty much together. My daughter-in-law is editing it and pulling it together. She lives in California. And hopefully my students will make up the register of teachers of the theater of being. And I'm trying to start with the ones who've had the most success stories. The ones on Broadway, we have 2 in Lion King. We have, they're doing all kinds of stuff. I mean, the ones that made movies, it's award-winning. They will be available to colleges, high schools. We're gonna make a register to say, we can send this person because you're in this area, so we'll send them to your school. And you buy the book, you buy the companion book and the documentary, and they will come and do a workshop at your school. So that's one thing. Then I'm hoping to help the state of Alabama make arts and entertainment a workforce. I'll have to share. I'll give you a copy for you and your father. I put together, with the help of some community college professors, we've put together a coalition. And what we did, we sort of outlined the plan. I called them together and I told them what I'd like to see us do. And they liked the idea. The idea is the community college system teaches fundamentals of just about any and everything about work, life, and that work life can be used in the film industry. They teach catering. Well, when a movie is done, we need catering services and catering trucks. Right now, when a movie comes to Alabama, they bring a catering service from out of state here. They need seamstresses for the wardrobe to tuck and turn material and make it fit on the artist. And they teach that in the community college system. They teach sewing and home economics and that kind of thing. But if they could take it a step further to prepare the students they're training so that they could satisfy the entertainment industry, then arts and entertainment could become a workforce. They teach electronics. There's just a little bit more, another step you need to go in order to be able to know the lifespan of certain lamps with the cameras when you're working, and what to not plug in to certain units for the camera and being a grip. They teach just about anything you can think of. Photography. We need still photographers for film and television. They teach truck drivers. We need people to drive the honey wagons and the trucks for the film and entertainment industry, and to know how to maintain them when you go out on location, so you won't have to call in AAA or somebody to come in. So normally when a film comes to town, they bring all of these people into the state to support that film, when we have people here that could learn and support. They teach videography. They teach digital media. But teaching them a little bit more that would show them how to edit would help them to understand how to take the coding for film projects and do the same work. When you look at the movie Black Panther, that was basically done on the computer. And we teach computer science all over the state, but we're not preparing people for the digital stretch that can be covered in this industry. So we have workforce development for the state of Alabama, and we put the money into the automotive industry and cattleman's industry and carpentry and all of these things. We could also put some money on arts and entertainment and prepare our people, pay for them to have an internship at a studio somewhere else so they can come back home and stay. That's one of the projects that I'm really working on. And I've made some headway. thus far I've met with the chancellor for the entire um, system of community colleges for the state of Alabama, and he sees it, he understood it, and he's interested. So we just got to do a little more meeting and a little more explaining, and bringing on board people that I've worked with in the industry. I've talked to them. We teach stage management, but we don't teach script supervising. So what I've done, I've contacted and I shared my dream with script supervisors on some of these sets that I just worked on in the last 2 years. And I said, if we get this going, would you teach via Zoom the class on script supervising to the teachers, so that the teachers can go back and teach their students in the community college system? And they were all excited in every area that I've just mentioned. And in some of those areas, we're fortunate enough to have people who really work in the industry living here, but they can't stay here because they end up going out of state all the time to work on projects. I have a friend that worked with me on In the Heat of the Night with hair. He is so sought after till he has to go and set up the hair trailer in Virginia, then he comes back to Georgia, then he goes to North Carolina, then he goes to New Orleans, and he pulls people together and said, this is what you're going to do for this hair. But when they teach hair and makeup at the community college system, they don't teach them period makeup, period hair. But that's the step further that I'm talking about we need to go. And I really want to do that, and I think that way we would have made a mark that will last and give people careers when I'm not even here. I think it's pitiful. It's an atrocious notion that we are not building on the arts in the schools, and we're relegating the arts only to performing arts, high schools. Every school needs to have the arts back into them. We lost a lot during the civil rights movement when it came to the arts, music. Folk didn't want this child to be by this child and this kind of stuff. But we have so many talented. I mean, it seems like from the earth that the talent is growing in these southern states. So I would hope that some form of art is inclusive in every single school. If it has to be visual arts in the elementary schools, if it has to be dance and choreography in the junior college, the middle school, and if it has to be theater in the senior, in the upper class schools, but every school need that exposure to the art. It is such a balancer for the young people. And with what we're going through today, our young people need some sense of appreciation of who they are and what they are and how they are. If you can play an instrument and lose yourself in that music, that's being. Pour yourself into what you're doing. That's being. That's existing in a complete and perfect state, lacking no essential characteristics. That's you. And when you can appreciate you and love you for what you have to offer, oh, how powerful you can be when it comes to others. The sensitivity that's needed today from students bullying other students, people growing up to become policemen and firemen and guards or whatever they're going to be, and growing up with an insensitivity is because of a lack of art. So I think it's a terrible mistake to blot out the arts in schools in this state or anywhere else in this country. The minute we learn to appreciate our humanity, then we learn how to exist as a human being. Let me tell you, from day one, I've worked with students who have been in foster care. And it wasn't until I met the families with the Seraaj Family Homes did I note a difference. Now this is the truth. I've had students, because when you're working in the performing arts, in acting, you have to break down the barriers and you have to peel the layers of onion skin that people hide behind. The trauma that many of these young people have endured is a forever lasting burden on them. But when I was in the company of the children from Seraaj Family Home, I could not pick up that trauma. I did not find those layers of insecurity, those layers of hiding behind, I hope nobody can look at me and tell that I've been raped. Those layers of hiding behind, I hope nobody can tell that I don't like to stand close to my foster auntie or uncle or dad or mom. I didn't see that. I saw pure connection like family. And the interpersonal communication that comes across when you've done enough sensitivity training with humanity, you know when a child or an adult is hiding something. You know it. You don't know exactly what they're hiding, but you know it's a pain, and you know it's a stress, and you know it is a barrier that they have no way of controlling to get over. And that's a terrible way to live. Yes, I've had many. I've had some that we had to actually, they had to be committed to medical care because they couldn't shake it. It's a horrible experience. And people think, oh, they'll get over it, they'll be okay. They don't get over it. Yes, I've had many students. I had one young lady that called me even after graduating from college that was reliving something that happened to her and her family because she was with her parent, really. It was her mother and her mother's new man. And then she found out from her little sister that the new man was doing the same thing to the little sister, and no one would do anything about it. And she could not shake it. She had a real problem with it and reliving it for what happened with her. The young man I had, we were going through the exercise of purifying yourself, of stripping the layers. And I said, okay, what you're gonna do, you're gonna do your own story. When he started doing his story, he stopped and he ran to the wall and he started beating the wall. And he wasn't even talking his story. He was acting it out. And then he got to a point of it came right back into his face. And he started hitting the wall, and the wall was cinder blocks. And his fist was bleeding. I had to get between him and the wall and hold him. And his strength was so strong, it was hard for me to hold his hands, to stop him from trying to push his fist into the wall. So he just broke down and fell to his knees. And then I asked everybody to just step back. I said, let me have a moment with him. Because I had to bring him out of that. And in the process of bringing him out of it, with tears and nose running and slavering. He got it out. He said, "He hurt me. He hurt me." And I said, tell him. I said, curse him. And it was a terrible, it was an ordeal for him. And if we did, I was able to get him out of it. And I'm grateful for that. But there was one that I couldn't get him out of it. And that was the one that we had to just call paramedics. He couldn't shake it. I've known many students. I've known children. I've known college students. I even had a performing arts group called RPAC, Adult Repertory Performing Arts Camp. There was an older man. When he was about to do his story, he called it the Booger Man. And he said, at night, Booger Man would come and I would hide under the sheets. But he found his way under the sheets. And this man was, I think he was 72. And the tears at age 72, he talked about the Booger Man being abused. It was a powerful, powerful presentation. So the lingering effect of being in foster care or being abused or being mishandled as a child can last a life. It lasts a lifetime. And many of us try ways that we've been taught to try to handle pulling them out of that. But I don't know whether, I just don't know when it comes, because it comes back. Like with the young lady, she had done well in undergrad school, but when she graduated and was working, she called me one night and she said, I can't handle it. I can't. It's happening to my sister. And it was just, so I had her to do what we call purging over the phone. Yes, I am so glad that we have a Seraaj Family Homes. We need many more children in the care of an organization with a leader like Abdul Seraaj, somebody that really cares about children. That man, I think, he calls it tough love. He said, but he will snatch a child out of a situation fast. I called him about a case just last year that I learned about, because a young man called me and he said, I'm giving up, which meant to me that he was threatening suicide. And I called Mr. Seraaj. I said, what do I do? He said, you need to call the state office. He said, you need to report it. They need to get those children out of that situation. I said, oh, but I don't want to be responsible. He said, okay, well, either you be responsible for saving them or you be responsible for letting them die. Whew. I said, that's not fair. He said, who said life is fair? He was very serious. I didn't know what to do. So I followed his lead. He said, it's tough love. He said, but you can't know and act like you don't know. Yeah. You know, we all have our stories. I don't recall that I've had to purge, because I call myself and I think of myself as a realist. So when something happens, I tend to address it. And I learned to do that as a child because my father was abusive to my mother. And I remember begging my mother to leave him, even though we loved him and we knew he loved us. But when he drank his corn liquor, he was a different person. and he would come in and hit my mother, hit us, anything. I learned to, I guess I've been purging from emotions from day one. Because my sister would have her running shoes and she'd run to get the police. And that would leave me there with my mother and my father fighting. And my mother she didn't seem like she knew how to fight back. So I would just speak out. So I don't know that I've purged. I might need to. But as things happen, my husband will tell you, as things happen, I address them immediately. I mean, I just go right, and this is the wrong place. It's not the wrong place because it happened right now. I have to do, oh, you're not going to do this to me. That's me. Because I don't want to carry the load that I have to purge. I don't want to damage my heart because it's so heavily broken. I don't want to treat people differently because I'm dealing with something on the inside. I want to deal with it as it happened. And that to me is realistic for me. And I think for that reason, I don't recall having ever had to purge. I've been in classes where I help people purge. You know, like when my professors were doing it, when they was teaching me, like when Frank Severa, I helped everybody else. But I don't remember them having to help me. And maybe that's why he said, you're a being actress. You cooking, girl. So he used to tell me. That was his word for me. Where is she? That girl is cooking. That's just how I am. Having to do character work, not only empathize but respect my elders, because I'm usually doing the grandmamas and the older characters, and it has really given me insight to respect the position of my elders. I love my work. I love it. The character that taught me most about myself was A Time to Kill, playing Gwen Haley. I love children, and I knew that I loved children. And for a child to be the victim of such a hideous crime and be my child, or anybody's child, it taught me the truth of who I really am and how I really feel about children. Because it was not a strain for me to play the role. It was a reality for me. When my path is tough, I get on my knees, and I believe in knee prayer. So I pray and I talk to the Master, and some kind of way he always shows me that he heard me. So and many times it comes through the telephone. I know that sounds strange, but I'll get a telephone call, and it was like, what made them call today? What? So I pray. I believe in prayer. My mother died when I was 16 years old. So I had to rely on the power that's greater than I could ever be. So I pray.